Dr. Shiva, what do you think about the environment and climate change?
Did you say the environment and climate change?
Yes.
Very good question. Look, climate changes. Climate always changes. CO2 is a greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gases do increase temperature. There's no controversy on this. The issue is, from a scientific standpoint, is how much. That's what the scientific question is. What's happened in this entire discourse is that in order to calculate that how much, people use what are called mathematical models. All right? And those mathematical models that they use are done in such a way that they're actually retrofitting old data and they're constantly trying to predict the new. But here's the problem. All of those models don't actually give the same answer. Now, in science, the definition of evidence is reproducible predictions, okay? Reproducible predictions. So for example, when an apple falls from a tree, we know from science, by Newton's law, we can actually predict exactly the time it takes to fall, okay? That's called a law. But if you look at many of these climate change models, in fact, if you look at the recent IPCC report, what's fascinating is they have 40 different models that predict how much ice will melt off the Arctic ice caps. One says that nothing will melt, another one says all of it will melt, and all different flavors in between. The point is that's not science, that's indeterminate. So we are guiding policy by not real science, but scientific consensus. That's not real science. But I'll tell you, this is what I do know, CO2 is not a pollutant. And I think one of the things we can all agree on, what we've done is, once again, the liberal elites, the elites, have like to divide the world into, pro-guns, anti-guns, right? Pro-choice, pro-life, right? Whatever the dialectic is. They want to divide the world into pro-climate change, anti-climate change. That's not the issue. The issue is, I believe if you asked anyone out here, everyone will agree we need to lower pollution. Everyone wants clean air, clean water, and clean food. But instead of talking about that, they made it about CO2. CO2 is not a pollutant. We need CO2.
Yeah, the world will just get greener.
Yeah, the world will get greener. In fact, human population really expanded when CO2 levels went up. And you know what happens when CO2 levels go like below 180? All life dies. So you need CO2. Okay? But the real issue is pollution, sulfur dioxide, lead. The Paris Accords. Well, I came out against the Paris Accords, and people will call me a right-winger. Why did I come out against them? And there's a nice video you can see. And basically the Paris Accords incentivized China and India to double their pollution. 2 years ago, China was polluting 11 billion metric tons of carbon. The Paris Accords tells them they can pollute 22 billion metric tons of carbon. And then after that, in 2030, they're incentivized to buy carbon credits. And there's a short supply of them. They're sold on the stock market. And there's going to be a few people who become trillionaires. Trillionaires. Wow. More pollution, right? More dirty air, dirty water, dirty food, and people become trillionaires. So if we want to really talk about the environment, clean air, clean water, clean food. And how do we get that? Infrastructure. Massachusetts has an F in infrastructure.
Yeah.
Horrible roads, horrible bridges. And if you don't fix these, they seep into the groundwater, and horrible water systems. These politicians are all liars. 60% of them are lawyers. Lawyers, liars, very homonym. They come together. But the bottom line is we need to focus on infrastructure, lowering pollution, and that's how we support the environment. CO2 is not a pollutant. We need to lower pollution. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Vote for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai on September 1st.